Alrighty then, and we are back with another video. Forgive the lighting right now, it's a little weird. The sun's coming down like directly overhead of the house, and all the natural light's coming in on this side of my face. I've tried to compensate with some of the indoor lighting, but it looks alright, I guess. Anyway, don't have a review for you today. The video I'm going to do is one that I've been talking about for a couple of months now. I'm going to basically start a two-part video process and show you my process up front and down close below, everything step by step of how I create my own naturally extracted tobacco concentrates. And there's not going to be a whole lot to this particular part of the video. Today what we're going to do is take a cigar, we're going to chop it up, grind it up, make a couple of even piles of tobacco grindage, and add some PG to it. That's it. That's really all there is going to be to this video today. Then we're going to wait a long time, and we're going to do the second part of the process some point down the road, and we'll go from there, and I'll show you how to strain it, filter it, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, things that you're going to need for this are going to be, obviously, a source of tobacco. This particular one here is a CAO flathead. This is a carb. These are big block V770. Couple of containers. I've got two of these that are this size to actually hold the slurry that you're going to be steeping. I'm going to be trying to make this the consistency of the tobacco a little bit finer than I normally do, so you're going to need something like this. Everyone knows what the intention of these is generally for. Me, I use them for tobacco. I use this in one of my previous batches, and yeah, they work great. A lot more work though. Cleaned scissors. Something to actually cut the tobacco into chunks and sections with. Propylene glycol. That's it. That's really all you need. What I'm also using is a measuring cup, just so that I can measure out the PG a little bit more easily. And get a couple paper plates. Put your tobacco on top of that. It just makes everything easier to deal with. And when you're done actually grinding everything up into piles, you just fold the plate up into a little funnel, dump it into the jars. Anyway, nothing else up here, so let's go ahead and cut to the intro, and when we come back, we're going to dive straight down to the table. I'm not going to be yapping again. After the table, I'll come up, give you my final thoughts, tell you what the process is going to be afterward, and tell you how long you're going to have to wait to see me again completing this process. So anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and cut this a little bit shorter, and we'll go right into the tutorial as soon as the intro is done, so check it out. Alrighty, and welcome back. Hey, we're down at the table right now. Sorry, I just bumped the camera. Sorry for the audio quality right now. I've slid the camera a little bit farther back so there's a little bit more table space for you to see what I'm doing. And also, sorry about the quality of this tablecloth. I'm not going to use my normal drop here. I'm using my kids' vinyl tablecloth. That way, if I spill any of the propylene glycol, I don't have to actually wash anything. Yay, old school t-shirt. Anyway, I did cheat a little bit here in between cuts. I took that cigar, and I did cut it in half into even lengths. So yeah, that gives me very even amounts of tobacco there between the two, and it should work out pretty well. Anyway, basically what I'm going to do is take the scissors here. I'm going to cut a couple little discs. I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. Whichever one suits you a little bit better is what you should do, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of half of this cigar for right now. And we'll start with this one. Basic concept of this is one of two ways. Start off the same. Cut a little disc of this off, just a little coin. That's basically what it's called in the tobacco world. With pipe tobacco, they're called coins. And basically you're looking at an edge on like that, and it looks like a little coin. You're going to cut off a coin of this, drop it in here, and grind it up. Or cut off a coin of this, grind it up by hand, directly into whatever you're going to put it into. Yeah. So, nice clean scissors. Make sure you clean them. And this cigar, this is why I say to get the paper plate. Cigars do tend to crumble a little bit. And if they do, who cares? You know, there's the tobacco you're cutting off. You can either grind this up by hand, and basically just crush it up. That's it. And the consistency you're going to get is going to be somewhere around that. Do that with all of this. Or, cut off a disc of this. Good sharp scissors are important here. And if you make a mess, not a big deal. That's why you've got the plate. Read the instructions for one of these grinders. And basically, shove that puppy in there. It's not going to look great. Get the top, mash it down, and go to town. Just work this thing for 10-20 seconds. Sorry, bumping the camera there. And you're going to feel when the resistance gives. Once it gives away, you get a much, much finer consistency. Also, what you can do is mix the processes, where I kind of grinded that stuff by finger, or shredded it by finger, rather. Pop it all in there. And again, who cares if it's messy at this point? Grind it up. Boom. There you go. That easy. I mean, I just did a couple chunks of this cigar right off the bat. Now, you're going to get little bits of stuff stuck in there. That's fine. Don't worry about it. It'll come out later. There you go. When you're done grinding the whole thing, the bottom of most of these grinders is going to have a little bit of dust in there. Just take a look. Make sure there's nothing that's usable in there. Whatever you can get out of there, get out. You know, put it in the final product. Your hands obviously are going to get messy doing this. Not a big deal. And yeah, you're going to grind this whole thing up. So, I'm not going to bore you to death, so what I'm going to do right now is pause the video and show you the final product once I grind up both halves of this into this consistency. And I am going to cheat a little bit and put them in here as well. And then we'll continue. Alright? Like I said, this is going to be a short video. There's not a whole lot going on here. So, yeah, stand by. Alrighty then, and we are back. And I am done with the process. A couple little dregs on the table here. That's fine. I'll sweep those up in a bit. And this is what we get at the end of the day. 2 jars, each with half of that beastie cigar. What's important is that I cut the cigar in half before I did this entire process so that I've got equal volume, approximately, by weight. Not by, or equal amount of tobacco by weight, not by volume here. Because, you know, that's going to vary depending on how you grind. Now, I've got my propylene glycol, and I did cheat a little bit, and I separated them ahead of time into 2 250 milliliter measuring cups. And let me go ahead and take care of one of these then. And this is why I've got this tablecloth, in case I make a mess during this process. Just nice and slow. It should be barely enough to cover all the tobacco, ideally. Some of it's going to float up to the top. Don't waste any of that. And another thing I didn't mention, when you're done with that grinder, make sure you open it up completely. The grinder I have is a 4-piece grinder. Open up all the parts and pieces and get all the tobacco out of it. I mean, you bought the cigar. Use it all then, you know? That ought to do it. And then this one. This is a better measuring cup, so I can pour a little bit quicker. And you're going to see a little bit of bubbling and stuff like you do in this one. A lot of that air is escaping. And don't worry if some of the tobacco up top is dry. I mean, it's going to turn into a slurry. It's going to turn into a big puddle of ooze. That was 500 milligrams, or milliliters rather, of propylene glycol that goes into all of this. And yeah, you can just sit here and wait, or clean hands, kind of poke it down a little bit. And all of that's going to absorb a fair amount of that propylene glycol, and you're just going to end up with a big mushy mess in there. And that's fine, that's what you want. You're going to get all this stuff out later when you do the filtering process. You don't need to have an excessive amount of propylene glycol in here. The less propylene glycol you have, the longer you let it steep, the stronger the concentrate at the end of the day is going to be. Now, from this point on, all you got to do is seal these up. So, yeah, I'm not going to bore you with that particular part. I'm going to go ahead and cut this part short, jump back up top, and we'll go ahead and finish everything up, and I'll show you the final product. So, stand by. Alright, welcome back up top. Okay, I got everything done. I got the bottles, or the jars rather, sealed off. Let me show you what I've done with that. Here in the States, we got this stuff called Glad Press and Seal. Kind of like saran wrap, but it's a little sticky on the top. And I tend to put that on top of the jar and then screw the top down. You don't need to do that necessarily depending on the quality of your jar. If you're using something like a mason jar especially, that's fine. I'm just not a big fan of having a glass jar around because if this breaks, that's a huge mess. Anyway, yes, I put that around there and I just screw the top on. That's fine. It gives me a little extra seal and a little extra confidence in it. And at the end of the day, what you're going to end up with is a slurry that looks something like this. I mean, nothing more or less complex than this. It's just a big, messy blip. And that's about the consistency you want. You want this gooey, ooey, nasty mess. That's how it's going to look. The actual liquid in here is going to get darker as time goes on. That's to be expected. Now, something else I did that I didn't show you is I labeled the top. What I've got, what type of cigar it was, the date that I put it in here, and the date that it's coming out. And yes, I am in the US. For all of you guys who are in Europe and the rest of the world, we do all the dates backwards. I chose this date, April 4th, to do this on purpose because, well, July 4th in the United States is Independence Day. It's our holiday, and it's easier for me to remember, hey, I was supposed to do something on July 4th. Oop, I got to take this stuff out. That gives me exactly, to the day, 13 weeks. So yeah, I'm going to give this a huge steep time. The last batch that I did, I steeped for 6 weeks. This is going to steep for twice as long, and I have about 50% more tobacco. And I've ground it up a little bit more finely, so yeah, I should end up with, in theory, a stronger concentrate. The only evidence that this thing ever existed anymore is the cigar wrapper. So yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. Put this stuff in the top shelf, my recommendation anyway, the top shelf of a closet. It needs to be in a cool, dark place, out of the reach of little ones and pets. Gotta remember, pets and kids don't know any better, and if they get into this, that could be a best case scenario a mess, B, a trip to the hospital. Because remember that tobacco leaf that's in there still has nicotine in it. So yeah, put it up on a high shelf in a closet. That's my recommendation. And once a day, grab these jars and do this. Nothing more or less complex than that. That's it. I'm going to repeat that process 91 times. And then I'm going to strain the stuff, filter it, and I'm going to show you that process on July 4th. Yeah, I'll record the video. I don't know that it's going to go up that date, but we'll see. Anyway, nothing else to show you with this. If you followed my steps here, you're going to end up with something a whole lot like this. If you use pipe tobacco, hey, you didn't have to do any of the grinding and shredding and blah, blah, blah. That was all pre-done for you. Use whatever type of tobacco you want. If you've got a roll your own cigarette tobacco that you're just really, really fond of, I think you're still going to get better results out of a cigar or a pipe tobacco, but it'll work fine. Just make sure it's a high-quality cigarette tobacco. Don't go grab a pack of Marlboros and shred them apart. You're going to get crap in those. Dump the propylene glycol on top of it. Make sure you measure fairly carefully the amount of tobacco and propylene glycol, and you should end up with the consistency. Something like that. The PG, ideally, will barely cover the dry tobacco, and then go about a 1/4 inch above in a jar of this diameter. That's it. That's all you need. The tobacco that's in this has already pretty much absorbed all of the PG that it's going to, and you see it's still a nice little wet slurry of a mess. And that's what you want at the end of the day. And in 3 months, we'll go ahead and revisit this. We'll take a look at it, and we'll see where it is. We'll strain it, and then I might do a shake and vape batch and see how it turned out. So anyway, I got nothing else for you. I'm not going to bore you to death. I got some updated links to advocacy below. Check it out. Things with the Cold Bishop Amendment and whatnot have changed very slightly. So yeah, take a look. If you found this video educational, useful, entertaining, whatever, I'd appreciate a like, share, subscribe if you feel like it. Comment down below. Tell me what you think. If you've got a different way of doing this process, let me know. I'm open to ideas. I just wanted to put this out for the world to see, and maybe some folks who like naturally extracted tobaccos like me can get some use out of making their own stuff with a little bit of time, a little bit of work. And yeah, it does save a whole lot of money. Like I said, this cigar that is now this started, or it's, what did it cost me? $9? Something like that, including shipping. Call it $10. The 500 milliliters of propylene glycol, I showed you that bottle that had originally 1 liter in it. That whole bottle ran me like $7 or $8. So let's call it $5 worth of propylene glycol. I'm up to $15 right now. $15 is going to yield me about 400 milliliters of concentrate. And if I do this like I typically do at 4:1, that's going to yield me a grand total of 1.6 liters of liquid. Now, depending on the base that I use and whatnot, that means I've got to buy about 1.2 liters of actual base, VG, PGVG, stuff with nicotine in it. But, you know, you buy that at Ecig Express or something like that, I mean, you call it a liter, maybe a little bit more. And, you know, you're looking at $20. You know, $25 on top of the $15 you spent. $40 for 1.6 liters. That's $10 for 400 mils. That breaks down to absolutely nothing. That's 40 mils for $1. 2.5 cents a mil. That's what you're spending on final product. It just takes a lot of time. But you get a higher quality product at the end of the day. If you're into tobaccos, this is a way to go. Anyway, I'll stop that. Like I said, I do appreciate the view. Like, share, subscribe. Carry on. And whatever you've got to do. Vape on. Vape strong. Stay off those stinkies. I'll see you next time.